Oh. 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 Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarottam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi आबाहु पुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिम् गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः हरिः ओम् Namaskar. I welcome you all to the first part of a three-part series on Iyengar Yoga with focus on back pain. Some of you may be long-time practitioners of yoga. Some of you may be beginners, and rest may be just yoga enthusiasts wanting to get an introduction to the subject of yoga. And in order to cater to these vast categories, I will start with explaining the various terms that I will be using in this presentation. Some of these terms are known to many. For example, asana, pranayama, dhyana, dharana. But the understanding one may have would vary upon what they have been exposed to. Just to take an example, let us use or check the word work. Now, work in common parlance means an activity that could be mental or physical, and that is done in order that you can achieve certain goals or certain results. But the very same word work has got an entirely different connotation in physics. A student of physics will understand work as being a force applied over a distance, which is very different from the word work in common parlance. And therefore, if somebody is trying to talk about this word work in terms of physics, there could be misunderstanding if listened to by someone who has got the concept of work of a layman. And therefore, I will try to define the meaning of the words so that all of us are on the same page. And when I talk of asana, it has got the same meaning that you will be able to understand if I've explained correctly. Now, asana is understood by the general public as posture or pose. Some may even qualify this pose or posture as that pose which is unique to yogic practices like Padmasana, the pose that I'm in sitting in, Shirshasana, the head balance, Sarvangasana, the shoulder balance, and so on. But when I talk of asana, it has got a technical meaning as per the sutras of Patanjali. And the second chapter, 46th sutra, he defines asana. The sutra states sthira sukham asana. Sthira means stable. Sukha means joyful, delightful, and that state is called asana. And therefore, not every pose is an asana, but that pose, that position, that posture, where there is stillness, stability, joyfulness, only that posture is asana or is qualified for asana. Now, it helps us better if we can understand this state of asana as asana is a state. Asana is not an activity. Asana is a state. Is there an opposing state that we can identify so that we can know that what we are doing is not asana because the attributes that we feel or sense is very different from the attributes that are required under the to qualify for being asana. The opposite of the state of asana is called chitta vikshepa. Chitta vikshepa means disturbed or scattered consciousness. When I talk of consciousness, what is it? In layman's term, we call it the mind. Technically, it may be a little different. But to explore what we mean by mind, we can say that the functions of the mind are well known and well received by us. The functions include sensing, feeling, emotions, thoughts, activities, actions that can be performed, the will, contemplation, reflection. All these things constitute the functions of chitta or consciousness or what we call the mind. Now, while the mind can have a state of asana, a state of stillness and joy, the other state is chitta vikshepa, wherein the conditions or attributes that are felt in this state are dukkha, which is opposite of sukha, dormanasya, a sense of dejection, hopelessness, helplessness, angamay jayatva, as opposed to sthira. Angamay jayatva is shakiness of the body parts, the mind, and the fourth condition of chitta vikshepa is a breathless or a disturbed breathing state. So you will understand on one end of the spectrum, you have chitta vikshepa, scattered consciousness with the attributes of dukkha, hopelessness, instability, and breathlessness. On the other hand, you have asana, where there is state of joy, where there is a state of stability, and there will be a state of stillness of the breath. This Hatha Yoga Pradipika says, Chale vate chalam chittam, nischale nischalam bhave, means that what is the condition of the mind will be the condition of the breath. What is the condition of the breath will be the condition of the mind. If it is disturbed, if the breath is disturbed, the mind is disturbed. If the breath is stable, the mind is stable. So therefore, in the state of asana, there is a stillness of the breath. And this aspect of asana is often missed when people try to talk about the asana and think of asana only as postures. The asana, when you feel the sense of joy, stillness of the breath, at that time only it can be qualified to be called asana. Now one will know that you cannot willfully control the breath. If you try to quieten the breath, you will find the breath becoming more and more restless. But then, how can one quieten the breath if one cannot do it willfully? The secret of quietening the breath is in your ability to adjust the body parts so that the breath becomes still and quiet. Now let us try to understand the different qualities of the breath that one may experience. If you are lying down on a couch, being lazy, you will find that the breath, if you observe, will spontaneously go into an exhalation mode. And before you can start the inhalation, there is a certain level of sluggishness or inertia. It is as if you are not in a position to start the inhalation, and then when it comes, after the inhalation, the exhalation is smooth, but once again, there is a certain inertia when you start the next inhalation. This I called as sluggishness of the breath. Now, if you are sitting, just let yourself just go down as you see me going down. The spine is no longer erect, the spine is curved, and then observe the breath, what happens as you exhale. Exhalation is spontaneous, it flows easily, but during the pause, there is a certain conflict of inertia before you start the inhalation. Again, after completing that inhalation, when you start your exhalation, exhalation is easy, just like a bucket descends down a well when it is empty. But when you have to draw the bucket up, there is inertia. So this breath is at one spectrum, one end of the spectrum. Now just recognize yourself or cognize or think of yourself when you are climbing up a hill. You become breathless. What is that condition of the breath? You inhale and you do not have sufficient time for exhalation because fresh breath is needed again. So there is very small pause between the end of one inhalation and beginning of the other inhalation, because the body is demanding so much of breath that there is no time for the natural exhalation to take place, which is generally slow, or which you felt when you were just sitting in a lazy position. So this is the other end where the inhalation starts, and before you can exhale fully, you have to start the next inhalation because the body needs that breath to sustain itself. This has very sharp transition between inhalation, exhalation, and back to inhalation. Whereas in the first case, there is a very sluggish transition between the end of inhalation and beginning of exhalation, and end of exhalation and beginning of inhalation. Now, yoga does not focus on the activity of in breath and out breath. Yoga focuses on the pause between the inhalations and exhalations. This transition or transformation is a transformation to what is called niruddha avastha, or a state of restraint. And the yogis focus on the period of pause between the inhalations and exhalations, and not on the activity of inhalations and exhalations. And that is why it is said in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita that what is day for the yogi is night for the common man, and what is night for the yogi is the day for the common man. The common man focuses on activity, what I am doing, how I am doing, etc. What is the result? What is the goal? That is what what is the focus of the common man. On the other hand, the yogi focuses on the pause between the activity. So the yogi focuses on what happens after you have gone into a posture. For common man, it is the activity of getting into a posture. So, for example, if I am sitting like this, and if I just bring my legs in the cross leg position and sit, I think I have done. A common man thinks that the asana has been done. So once you have got into that recognizable posture, that is asana, and now I can unwind myself because the asana has been done. But that is not the case for the yogi. For the yogi, the asana starts when the pose has been accomplished. So this is just kriya. Getting into the pose is kriya, nothing. It's not an asana. Once you have got into the asana, or rather, once you have got into the posture, now I stay and make certain adjustments which makes me to go from a very unstable state to a still state, from a disturbed state to a joyful state. So that time, once you have got into that state of stillness, stability, and quietness, that is the time when the asana commences. And the asana ends once the restlessness sets in or disturbance is setting in. So that is the reason why you find yogis are in a particular position for a long time. If the attempt was just to get into the posture, then the activity is completed. But the yogis start once you are in the posture. Let me give you an example which will clearly clarify what I'm saying. When you go home, you open the door, and then if you go out back to the world, that is not called coming home. Coming home is a condition in when you are going to go home, become restful, get recharged, energized, harmonize your functions so that you are fresh. That is the condition of going home. And in that sense, asana is coming home. It is a natural state wherein you can get energy, when you can get freshness, and not a state wherein you feel tired or fatigued. So the condition of asana means that there is a state of stillness, quietness, at the same time healing. If you are unwell, you come back from office, and if you are unwell, You go and lie down in bed and you are at home. You take a day off. You stay at home because you are unwell. In the same manner, when you are unwell, if you are in that state of asana, you are going to get healed. And that is the meaning of how asana can cure. Asana is not just about adjusting, like in a physiotherapeutic mode, certain parts of the body to get wellness. In asana therapy, you are in a state wherein you are in a state of stillness, quietness, happiness, joyfulness, wherein you forget the sense of pain. And that is the time as you stay, you will start to get healed. And there are certain positions which can give you that state. Now, remember what I've just said. You can go into any posture. And in that posture, if you can get that sense and feeling of stillness and joy, that pose has evolved into an asana. And when the yogic tests say that there are 8,400,000 poses, it means that you can get into that state from any posture and in any posture. If Shiva could perform asana in 8,400,000 states or positions, it means how effective he is that in any complexity of the pose, he could be restful and still in that state. Whereas for beginners, they may be still only in certain simple poses. And therefore, I will start with very simple poses so that you can understand what I meant by asana and what I meant by just a posture which is not asana. Now, you are sitting in any posture. You could be sitting in simple cross legs. That's not very important. This is a simple cross legs, so Sukhasana, or you could be in Padmasana. Now, just observe what happens to your breathing when you raise your shoulders up like this. Can you see? Initial condition of the shoulder and the current condition of the shoulder. Here I have made the change, here I have not. And now I'll make that change. What happens to the breath? Observe the breath carefully. You can sense the breath going into the body, going through the nose, and creating a pumping action in the abdomen or a dropping and lifting action in the chest. This is what is called Shwasa Prashwasa. Now, from this position, you have to gently but firmly move the outer edge of the shoulder, which is here, gently and smoothly and firmly pull that down with your upper arm. Both. Gently, firmly, and sustaining that, just be there in that state. What happens to the breath? Once again, to understand that once, if the shoulders are raised up, observe the breath. How the transition of the breath between inhalation and exhalation is not smooth. And when you gently yet firmly pull the outer edge of the shoulders down with your arms, what happens to the breath? So you will now be able to identify that in this very simple pose of Sukhasana, when are you in that state of asana? For a beginner, he may not be able to see somebody whether he's in the state of asana or not, but to a person who is well trained, by just observing the breath of that person who is doing the posture, he will be able to know whether the asana is being done or the posture is only being done. Now, we will take a very simple standing pose, which is called Tadasana. In Tadasana, as you stand, once again lift the shoulders. You will find your breathing becomes hard. But the moment you pull the shoulders down gently but firmly and sustaining that, that breath becomes still and that mountain pose becomes Tadasana. Now, we will spread the legs around a meter apart from one foot to the other, a distance of a meter apart. Then observe this leg, how I turn in. Observe this leg, how I turn it out so that the toes are facing the wall in front. Now, to go into Trikon Kriya, or what I call triangle pose, I will take this hand down and rest it on the shin and raise the other hand up. Now, this posture may be called Trikonasana, but it will not be called, it will not be qualified for Trikonasana if your breath is harsh. Now, how can I make my breath soft so that this posture can qualify for Trikonasana? I just remember what I had done. I will move the outer edge of the shoulder away from the neck and ears and make it go towards the elbow. And same here. This shoulder will go towards the elbow and away from the ears. In this condition, if I turn my head up, I can experience that state which is breath free, where I don't feel the breath. This becomes asana, Trikona asana. But now, when the breath becomes harsh, you can hear that harshness in my voice. That is just the triangular pose. And this I will change to go into asana. You can come up, go to the other side, and then go into the cross pose, which we call Trikonasana. Observe the breath, how it is, and then move the shoulder away from the ears, both sides, so that you get into a state of still breath. Stay in that state, and you are in asana. When you come up, then join your legs. So today's class was just an introduction to understand that salient point which makes the posture to become an asana. And that salient point is that stillness of the breath. If you miss that, you are not in asana. In the next two sessions, we will do certain poses which strengthen and keep your back free from aches and pains. And in the third session, we will work on those postures which one can get into asana state so that healing can take place. So today we end with this simple lesson that asana is not just any posture, but asana is a posture in which there is stillness of the breath, stillness of the mind, and feeling of joy. Thank you. Namaskar.